What's happening, everybody? Dr. Michael Moeller, aka Dr.Moe here. And today I have an exciting guest. We're going to be talking about icing the testes. All right. So I'm just going to hit it with you front and center to get you super excited. But I got Lucas Aoun. What's going on, man?
Dr. Michael, I'm good, man. I'm really good, man. I'm super pumped to be here and finally get a chance to chat about the things that we love. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
super
And so we've
excited.
connected several times over social media. I've seen his work. He's seen a little bit of mine. We're like, man, we got to get our brains together here and talk about some of the awesome stuff in men's health. So, Lucas, do you want to give people just a real quick background on yourself and what you like to do?
Sure, man. Yeah. So yeah, currently working with athletes and people that basically want to optimize physical and mental performance. So I mean, I started out my career studying exercise science. And then just sort of fell in love with researching the brain, researching how we can just biohack our way to optimal performance, and then just fell in love with like experimentation, and then researching things and then applying them, and then just seeing how they affect other people, and then yeah, I just love the whole idea of taking control of your physiology. It's a massive passion of mine.
Was there ever a moment where you like something, for me, I know there was like something that kind of clicked, that something worked where I was like, oh, whoa, there's something to whether or not you want to call it biohacking or, kind of natural, right? Because are you a naturopath, or that's kind of what your work line of work is in?
Yeah, exactly. So I'll be finished my naturopathy degree the end of this year.
Awesome.
Um,
Congratulations.
but yeah, super excited, man. But yeah, there was a moment. There was a particular moment where actually I was playing professional soccer,
Oh,
and I was experimenting with some compounds, and I remember there was one particular game that I know it's very rookie when you look at it, but there was one particular compound, L-theanine, that I remember
mm.
experimenting with like before one of my matches, and I remember just absolutely feeling so in the flow state when I was playing. I just felt like everything was just coming together. I was like, that was one of my best performances, and all that L-theanine, all it was doing was really like dampening the anxiety response. So it's like, yeah, I think that was like one of the key compounds that like really inspired me, and then made me think like, what else is out there? And then that's when the whole rabbit hole started.
Yeah, man. And it's crazy too, because it's something so simple as a simple compound L-theanine that can just change everything all at once. And people really don't give it the time of day, right? We're used to medications and surgeries and stuff. And I had a similar, for me, I tore my ACL in high school playing football, and I recovered very quickly because my mom made this like crazy fruit juice concoction, like green stuff. And I recovered so quickly, and they were just so interested. How is that possible? And I would say the other thing, I took some pre-workout, and that's when I never really did caffeine. But that thing is just a plethora of like stuff, like that usually has carnitine in it and beta alanine and citrulline, all these things. And it was literally one of those things where I'm like, I went in and PR'd everything in the weight room, and then it's kind of like, whoa, I should probably spend a little more time figuring out these things. So you did the L-theanine, and then was there anything else that you kind of like? Then you're like, you just kind of dove into all this research, or where'd you go from there?
Yeah, from there I sort of just like wanted to see how I could utilize nootropics to help me with studying. So then I was
Mhm.
like experimenting and researching various nootropics. How can they, support me and like get me into that flow state whilst I study, and then enhance like memory and focus and things like that. And then again, there was another golden ticket compound that I found, which was uridine monophosphate,
Mhm.
which I mean, I don't use anymore, but back in the day, a few years ago when I was experimenting with it, I was like, this is an absolute game changer for my ability to, it just completely kills procrastination. Like it just makes you want to get shit done like you wouldn't believe. Like it was really profound.
I've played with a lot of nootropics. Uridine is one that I never played with. What's the dose?
Yeah. So,
You
so
remember?
with uridine monophosphate, so it's actually has a very unique dosage strategy. So if you dose it too high, you get really sleepy. So anything
Hmm.
beyond 400 milligrams, it can literally induce sleep. It can
Oh,
it can prolong that deep sleep, slow wave sleep. Um, but then anything below like 150 milligrams orally gives you that awesome stimulating focus, concentration. Also potentiates caffeine as well.
Which we need. I mean, caffeine's one that I go back and forth on. I try and cut it out, but it's one of those things where I've been procrastinating, and, to make it through medical school, you take what advantages you can. And it's crazy because the world that we live in now, and we'll definitely talk about this, like with testosterone, we're in a space of everything that's kind of fighting against you. I actually do a lot of testosterone replacement, and maybe we can talk about, the actual, doing the medication versus doing things naturally. But I've really kind of come to a place in, like, we're in such a space now where there's so many external factors, whether it's, sleep, blue light, crappy food, crappy diet, lifestyle, no community, all these things. It's like, we have to figure out ways to biohack ourselves, in my opinion, to just, like, people call it the flow state or whatever. It's like, to me, L-theanine probably put you in a state that was almost like baseline.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm so aligned. That's exactly what I was stressing to a friend of mine literally yesterday. It's like, you telling me that I'm using all these things to, like, boost my performance, whereas it's probably what I'd be like without all the performance inhibitors. Like, everything in our environment, they're like performance inhibitors. So it's like, I'm just, like, balancing that and bringing myself back to baseline. So true, man.
Yeah. And then, so how did you, where does the icing the testes come in with this? Because you're like the first guy that I heard talk about that. And I am, like, to consider myself a pretty open person. I'm like, that's interesting. Because I remember hearing stuff about, like, maybe nuns did it to try and decrease sex drive and all these different things. So I'm sure people are pretty interested to hear about that. How'd you come upon that, and what's the deal with it?
Yeah, I know. At the start, I was sort of like, right, this is all just bro science. Like, oh, yeah, in these bodybuilding forums and things like that. And I came across one guy who, he just documented his experience. And then I did a little bit of research on PubMed and analyzed some studies. And I was like, right, there's literally nocturnal scrotal cooling devices literally designed to boost fertility. And I'm like, right, what the hell is this? I'm like, okay, I looked into the study, noticed that the benefits started to really show for, like, sperm count, sperm motility, sperm volume after about 8 to 12 weeks. And I was like, right. I literally remember when I first started, man, it was literally like, it was New Year's Eve, like 2 years ago. And I remember just literally 15-minute session just before bed. And I was like, right, the morning wood was stronger than ever. Like, this is good. This is good stuff. And then, just started experimenting with that before going to the gym. And I remember just feeling like super amped, super G'd up. Like, it just sort of gets you, like, fired up a bit, similar to how you feel from an ice bath. But yeah, and then I sort of just branched off and then prescribed it to a bunch of, like, a lot of my friends and things like that. And they were all coming back to me reporting saying, hey bro, like, I'm getting erections all the time. Like, I'm feeling really good. And it's like, all right, so I know it's legitimate. Let's set up, like, a Facebook group. And, now I think I've just managed to hit, like, 1,000 members of my Sub-Zero Facebook group. So it's growing, man. It's growing.
Yeah, I know. And I enjoy that. I'm in that forum, and I see some, and again, it's one of those things, people will put forward some progressive ideas, and obviously that's how we make any changes in the world. And to me, it makes sense. Like, we know cold therapy does so many great things for the body. So why not go straight to, the source of testosterone? So, and I don't know, are there any real studies on testosterone at all? Or have you personally looked at your levels? Did it do much? And I personally, I love science, but at the end of the day, to me, I'm about results. I don't care if placebo, cures cancer. Like, it cured cancer. I don't care about the mechanism. It's important to know about the mechanism of action, but if a patient comes to me and they're like, I can't get morning wood, I can't have, I can't perform sexually, and then they ice their testes and they're like, yeah, I can do it, and there's no science, I'm like, it's working. Isn't that, you come to me as a doctor to help you get through things, and it's working. Like, that should be the end of the conversation sometimes.
Yeah.
But
100%, man. I'm very much aligned with that. Yeah. Well, to answer that question, there literally are no studies documenting an increase in testosterone. Because, I mean, I don't even think they've performed a study where they can even, like, anyway. So
you're going to make money off of it. It's a problem, right?
Yeah.
Like, who's going to conduct that study? I think it'd be interesting, maybe, personally, maybe I'll do it myself. I'm that kind of guy, like, with different supplements, and, like, I'll just try myself, because I've actually, for full disclosure, I've done TRT. So when I was in school, even at 23, when I moved out to start medical school, my testosterone was in mid 400s, which really isn't great. And my free was like at 9 or 10. And I've always kind of floated around there. So, you know, I've recommended TRT for guys, so I wanted to try it out. And I did Clomid, I did ACG, I did all these things first, and they kind of flipped my mood around kind of weirdly. And then I did 3 months of TRT. And then in that, I actually looked into a sperm donation place because I want to look at, you know, my counts. I want to see how this is affecting and if it's what people say it is. And yeah, I mean, my counts were, and I know I did just a visual sample in school to see that my counts were good, things were moving. And then here recently I did it and it was like down 95%. So that's from TRT. So it's true, you know, like it's one of those things you read about. I'm like, I've experienced it. So I've been off of it now for like 2 or 3 months. And then I'm going to do another sample because like you're saying, 90 days sperm gets created. So just kind of experimenting on myself at this point, and deciding whether or not to that. I don't know if you've ever looked into, they have like sperm banks where you can, you know, store your sperm in case you want to have kids. So it's like $100, a couple $100 a year or something, but you know, in the world we're living, like another thing, sperm counts. We know that they're just decreasing so much. And as we age, you get chemical exposure, you get all kinds of stuff like that. So
exactly right, man. With the sperm banks there was actually, I came up with it was a pretty funny idea. I don't know if it's, don't know how many guys would be interested, but I thought of having like a sperm count competition.
I mean, I bet it would work. I think people would go for it. I jump in on, I mean, there's nothing, it's just like testosterone when I'm measuring levels with guys, there's so many times that guys, you know, oh, my level's 700. I want it to be 1,000, you know, it's like, it's just a number, bro. Like, you know.
Exactly.
So then you got into Icing the Testes. Any other thing that kind of drew you into the testosterone, as far as natural treatments, things that you believe in, or you think that work well?
Yeah, actually there was, you're familiar with lion's mane?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I know there's a lot of positive effects from lion's mane, but I remember probably about 3 years ago, I jumped on the lion's mane bandwagon, back from, do you remember Powder City? There was,
powdercity.com. Yeah, dude, you could get everything on there so cheap.
Yeah. So, I got a lot of their, lion's mane, and I was using it literally like an hour and a half before bed, and it was literally just knocking me out. Just completely just knocking me out. I'm like, right, this is interesting. And then actually like I think after about 4 to 5 weeks, I noticed that it was like literally just making me feel like dysphoric and like a little bit like it just smashed my mood and even libido as well. So then I started researching what's the mechanism. And then I found out that it's like a potent 5-alpha reductase inhibitor. You know, almost, I mean, not on par with finasteride, but I mean, we know the dangers, and I'm sure you've seen in your clinic guys come in post finasteride, like PFS, post finasteride syndrome, and that's like that's a space that I love researching. And I'm sure, like, what have you seen, like in your clinic? Like,
I won't put anyone on finasteride when guys come in, especially, you know, for losing their hair. So anyone that isn't familiar, testosterone gets converted into DHT by 5-alpha reductase is the enzyme. And some of the theories, and it works for hair regrowth, you can block that. So some of the theories is this DHT can cause prostate problems, the acne, some of the negative stuff from testosterone. But unfortunately, like Lucas is saying, I've seen a plethora of guys come in with what's called post-finasteride syndrome, where it's just sex drive gone, erection's just gone. So I have like some friends my age, like, hey man, I'm starting to thin. You know, I'm starting to thin. I'm like, do I try that out? I'm like, dude, you can take my hair off my head before you take away my manhood. Like that's just kind of and if it's only like, it's like 1 or 2%, but it's still like 1 in 100 or something. It's pretty high. Which is also, I think, something important that you bring up, that people think because things are kind of natural that there's no side effects, right? I think you and I, one of the first things we ever talked about was ashwaganda, right? Didn't you what was your experience?
Geez, man, my Medium articles are now gone viral, like explaining how that ashwaganda, and we'll link it in the show notes for the listeners, how ashwaganda can induce anhedonia and like numbing of the emotions. And, you know, I looked into the theory behind it, and you could look at it from a traditional point of view, which is like, we know it's like adaptogenic, lower stress. But maybe it's lowering stress too much for some individuals, right? Like for me, someone who already has very low cortisol, analyzed by the Dutch test. For me, ashwagandha is like a no-go zone. That will just suppress everything, like my energy. I feel blunted, and even, I'm still trying to figure out the exact mechanism, and I'm doing a lot of research into like this whole blunting of emotions, blunting of pleasure, blunting of like emotional depth and capacity. Which I think, did you have an experience with it? Was it cerebrolysin or?
I didn't like cerebrolysin. It made me feel terrible. I mean, ashwagandha didn't make me feel good either. I kind of took it for a little bit and I thought it was doing okay. And then, yeah, I've seen, I think it works as a minor SSRI too. And, I think it's just important to mention that even natural things, we're messing with the biochemistry of the body. And in my experience, I think what people underestimate the most is the mindset of people and how that affects the world. Like, reptilian brain wise, you graduate from school, you get a girlfriend, you get a job, you make money. It's like we get dopamine and serotonin kicks. Your soccer team wins a game. We see that testosterone, dopamine, serotonin go up. And so you have to take that on for an individual on top of a person taking ashwagandha. And, like people are depressed, like, well, we're just giving them an SSRI and increase their serotonin and make them happy. It's like, we don't understand the flux of how all these things kind of run together. And I don't know if you've looked into much into the MTHFR mutation stuff, COMT mutations. I think people are getting a little bit lost in the weeds, and we're kind of losing our sense as practitioners and healers, that it's like we need to figure out what works for the person. Like I'm all for, I've used Dutch tests myself too to look at, my morning cortisol is average and the rest of the day it's pretty low. So I'm with you. If I'm taking an ashwagandha in the evening, it's probably just womping me out. So, and cerebrolysin peptide is supposed to increase brain drive nootropic factor. It's even stronger than it supposedly, but when I took it, it gave me like extreme anxiety. So, and who knows what that means for me, like what pathways flooded, and it has to do with my personality, right? Because that's the big thing with testosterone. I try and talk to guys about what I've seen is upping the testosterone has really helped with mood, and what's really more important than mood, right? At the end of the day, I have a patient today that contacted me, and he's in his late 70s. He's been on TRT for 20 years, and he has high hemoglobin and hematocrit. He doesn't want to donate blood because he's religious reasons, and his primary care wants to take him off testosterone. And he lives and breathes for the gym. He's in his late 70s. It's like, that's what he does with his life. You take away his testosterone, it's like, what becomes of him? So there's a balance of things. So I don't know. Have you looked into actual testosterone replacement therapy compared to natural stuff? Do you have kind of a philosophy on that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been asked that by a lot of guys as well, but I guess, I do believe there's a time and place for TRT. Absolutely. Having said that, I still really want to focus on how can we get it to how can we optimize test levels naturally first? If we've exhausted literally all pathways, like using what we know, using specific herbs, specific lifestyle strategies, sleeping well,
can you name
eating
some
well.
of them? What are some good herbs, good lifestyle stuff?
Yeah. So one herb from TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, that I honestly don't believe it gets much attention at all is Cistanche. Are you familiar with Cistanche?
Does it have another name?
Well, from the TCM perspective, it's Ru Kong Rong.
I don't think I know that one.
Yeah, that's it's Genghis Khan. Apparently, Genghis Khan devoured this herb.
Yeah. Okay, I'm listening. As long
Also
as I
known,
don't like slaughter a whole continent, but I mean the guy was on something. So
yeah, also known as Cistanche in your pants. That's the.
all right, you got my attention.
Yeah. So
dose on that or anything to watch out for? Or?
The only caveats with Cistanche is it's potently a kidney yang tonic. So it's quite like warming, and also it probably wouldn't be great in summer unless you balance it out with like some mild kidney yin restoratives like goji berries or asparagus, eating yin boosting foods. I'm going down a different rabbit hole, but like TCM, I like to delve into TCM every now and then.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see their perspective on the body, and then matching in when they say kidney yang, when it supports kidney yang, what they're really meaning is like, right, adrenals, that they're meaning the battery pack, like the life pack, and the androgens as well. And even deer antler is a really potent kidney yang tonic. And they literally say, do not prescribe in men under the age of like 25 because it's so powerfully, like it's so yang that I think it ends up just being too reinforcing, too stimulating, too like, you become imbalanced. You just become too
like turbo. Because and I don't. We study a little bit of TCM. You probably have a little bit more information on that. To my understanding, yang, I've always been like, one of my professors told me it's kind of like the fire on top of the mountain. It's like the masculine. It's like the energy. It's like the go go go. And the yin it's like the feminine. It's like the cold, wet, dark cave. And you kind of have the balance. And what you're saying is it's almost like putting the turbo on the kidneys, which would be good with someone maybe who has like kidney disease or someone like GFR is low maybe. So it's like, let's turn these babies up. But if you're 25 and you're wheeling and dealing at 1200 total testosterone, probably not the best time and place.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough.
So we've got Cistanch, deer antler, forskolins forskolin hits a few things at once, getting that thyroid boost, you're getting the free testosterone boost aspect to it. Although, the studies were done in like overweight individuals, it's still, a lot of guys experience benefits from it. And the other benefit to forskolin is that it actually lowers net serotonin. And that's a whole nother like,
I was going to say, that sounds like a bad thing, again, right? Bad thing, low serotonin, but what, if you're, what does that mean? You're just saying someone has too much serotonin and you just need to balance it, or?
Well, exactly. Well, with, so we know that serotonin rises alongside prolactin, estrogen, and cortisol. So the three key stress hormones, serotonin seems to at least activate or increase alongside these hormones. And if you look at some of the like anti-serotonin drugs, for example, cyproheptadine, which is probably one of my faves, like in terms of, personally, I do microdose cyproheptadine maybe like once every 2 weeks, just to like lower the net serotonin production and just to keep me woke, man. Like just to keep me like getting out of that learned helplessness state, which is like a serotonin dominant state. So learned helplessness is like you're in this environment and you think that like you just feel trapped and you feel like you're being controlled. Whereas like, when you dampen that serotonin production, you really feel more just like your perspective is, you're just more open-minded, more like, instead of it being so pessimistic, you're way more optimistic. So cyproheptadine is probably, and there's a few others. So we've got forskolin, cyproheptadine, and a few other compounds.
That's interesting. It was funny because I think that, you learn in school, I usually measured prolactin levels if people wanted to do TRT, see if I have prolactinoma. And I don't even remember which, I think it was an SSRI. So, and I'm like, hey dude, your prolactin's super high. You need to go get an MRI. And actually it was cool. He actually caught me. I'll be dead honest. He was going through his medications. And he's like, is there any of the medications that could be doing this? And I'm like, I remember back, I looked like, dude, you're on an SSRI. That can mess with prolactin levels. And he got off the SSRI and his prolactin dropped. And like you're saying, prolactin 2 kind of shuts off gonadotropin releasing hormone, and that'll blunt testosterone too. So, and it's interesting too. We live in such a society. I don't know what it's like. Where are you at? You're in Australia, right? What part?
We're based in Melbourne.
Melbourne. Yeah. I mean, I'm in Southern California and I don't know how much better the news is there, but the news here and the overall vibe right now with the COVID, and you guys had all those wildfires. It's like, you can't, what we talked about earlier, it's almost hard not to live in a state of fear when that's all you're being told everywhere. COVID, the economy, now we have all the, with the protests and the injustice and all these different things. It's hard not to live a life. And it just seems like we're being programmed. So in my opinion, I'm with you. Even if I can take a herb or a supplement that can kind of empower me to go out and take on the world, sign me up, man. So I might even try out the microdosing thing. So
Yeah, yeah. Cipro, I mean, Cipro is very powerful. And I mean, it was actually the very first antihistamine ever developed
Hmm.
by, it's like first generation antihistamine. And also potent, I mean, it potently suppresses cortisol as well. So got to be super careful with dosage, and it's hepatotoxic as well pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll watch out for that one. I'll probably do a little more research before I dive into that because, yeah, with everything kind of going on, I've been having rough mornings getting out of bed, so my cortisol is already pretty low. So I've actually been taking some adrenal cortex, which I really haven't done, but I'm just I'm playing with it. I do that and some alpha GPC and some CDP choline right when I wake
No.
up, just to kind of like get my brain up and rolling a little bit with everything going on. So
Yeah, the adrenal cortex, I literally just started experimenting with the glandulars literally
yeah,
like a week ago.
what do you
They're
think?
pretty powerful, man. Like
Right?
for restorative action. I got one that's like a blend. So you got the spleen, thymus, and the adrenal, and pancreas, as like a synergy. Man, that boosted my appetite like you would not believe. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, the pancreas. I think the pancreas glandular help to like restore the exocrine um, function of the pancreas, which is like digestive juices. So
Yeah. Makes
yeah,
sense to me. I mean, have you looked much into carnivore and kind of the nose to tail and the eating, all that? Do you have any kind of opinion on that at all?
yeah. I mean, when people discuss the carnivore diet, I mean, I was gonna have a chat with Paul Saladino. I
Oh,
was
cool.
trying to get him. I was trying to get him on my podcast because there's a few things. There's a few things I'm very, I want to question, and I really do believe that the majority of the benefits that people experience from that diet is simply the fact that they're eliminating
Yeah.
the crap. Like they're
Food, yeah, yeah,
literally,
yeah.
yeah, it's just
Or
the
even
ultimate.
food sensitivity too. Like you could be eating tomatoes your whole life and then you get rid of them. You're like, it's because of the meat. And it's like, well,
Yeah, exactly. However, there's a few things that I want to challenge. For example, um, I don't believe anyone on a carnivore diet should be on a carnivore diet if they've got sluggish bile metabolism
yeah.
or sluggish bile production. It's like,
Um,
all right, if you're going to go on a carnivore diet, then what are you doing? What bitter herbs are you also taking alongside that to support bile production? Like, how are you getting things moving? I know he debates that fiber is not essential,
yeah.
but man, like from a naturopathic point of view, like short chain fatty acids, like we know what they do and we know the benefits of them. So I'm just wondering, like, we'll see in 5 years from now.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Time
some
will
of those
tell.
guys, yeah, I think Sean Baker's went a little longer and they've got some people. It's like, it's like veganism too. I think you can do it for a while and then you can kind of expose, maybe some of the things that might not be so optimal in it. I will say the one thing when I looked into it that really grabbed my attention was one, his kind of thing that a lot of the plants that we eat have a hormetic effect, that we're taking them to actually like induce damage, and then our body reacts by increasing glutathione and other oxidants. So I was like, oh, I mean, I know that about caffeine. Caffeine is a natural insecticide, so I can agree with that. Um, and on the other end, um, the organ meat thing made a lot of sense to me. I'm like, why do we have so much thyroid disease? Why do we have literally almost every disease? But how many people have to take glandulars and they do better on glandulars than they do on T4, T3. So I'm like, maybe these our ancient cultures or even people 50 to 100 years ago, it's like CoQ10. We know how good that is. It's like, maybe it's because they were eating the heart all the time. And that's just something we're gotten away from. We're eating Pop-Tarts, instead of the CoQ10 in the heart, we're eating Pop-Tarts. It's
Yeah,
crazy. So it goes back to our conversation about, do I need to supplement with CoQ? Maybe, because for thousands of years we evolved eating heart all the time. So I don't know. It's just interesting to kind of think about that from a nutrient perspective of what we're getting from those different things that we just don't get anymore.
exactly. 100%, man.
Yeah. Anything else in the testosterone realm? Any lifestyle stuff? So you found the icing of the testes, exercise, or anything in particular that you found that's beneficial?
Um, Sleep. Yeah, so there's an essential oil that I found.
Hmm.
And I was looking into aromatherapy. I'm like, right, there's got to be some sort of there's got to be a good like male hormonal essential oil, because like everyone's slapping on lavender. It's the last thing.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the most emasculating and yangy sexual herb for a guy. I mean, I like lavender. It's probably not what I want to lay down with my partner with, but
Yeah, so I sort of like delved into that, and then discovered like Idaho blue spruce. Are you familiar with that one?
I've heard about it. I don't know much about it.
Yeah, so I grabbed some from Young Living. They're from, I think they're from the US. And you know, I kept it in my, I keep it in my backpack when I take it before the gym. I'll give it a few sniffs. I might put a couple of drops on my wrists. I mean, I haven't done like, there's no research on this particular oil. Having said that, when I do use it, I definitely notice a much more grounded feeling. Like in terms of like a like anxiolytic property, I feel just more like centered and grounded. And its onset is rapid. I mean, we're talking like within 15 to 20 seconds. That's the benefit of like aromatherapy. Straight into the brain. So responded pretty well to that from a like just from even from like an anxiolytic, like just general feeling of like confidence, I'd say. So yeah, between that, I mean, again, we've got like specific exercises. Again, in the gym, nothing will beat the compound lifts for that boost in test. Having said that, though, man, I think with my latest blood test, it may have been heavily confounded because I trained legs 2 hours before my testosterone result, and that's why. I mean, that's why it was literally 988. I'm like,
That's pretty good. What are you usually at? Milligrams per
usually
deciliter?
NG per
DL.
DL.
Yeah, that's good.
It was, but like looking back, I scanned over my other results, and it was usually around 750.
Yeah, that's what I was like. I was like, dude, if you're over 1,000 now, I'm like, that's pretty good. I mean, I would say out of the hundreds of labs that I've done, maybe 5% of guys are in the 700-ish. I've had maybe 2 guys in the 900 range, 3 guys. So I was like, that's pretty good. So yeah, I don't know if it's from the leg workout or, you're probably doing a lot of you're probably doing a lot of things right though too.
Oh yeah. I mean, I try to, I'm always experimenting. I think, I got a whole stack. I was on a particular stack at the time. Even just simple things like Tudka. Are you familiar with like Tudka? The liver. It's a bile acid. Similar to taurine. So it's like I was dosing that quite often as well, leading up to that blood test. I don't know. I know it protects the, endoplasmic reticulum, so it's protecting like the testes in some way. So whether or not that contributed, I don't know. But again, man, I just love experimenting and just seeing what works. And what works for me may not work for you. And that's the other thing, like you said before, the individuality, like it comes back to that. It really does.
Have you played with, I've not done it, is it pine pollen or something?
Yeah.
Have you done, I've just like, the idea of it just doesn't make the biggest sense to me. Cause it just like, I don't know, it's like tree bark almost, what I mean? Like, what do? You put this, is it capsule or I think it comes in powder?
Well, the best administration, like the best form is like tincture, alcohol.
Oh, it makes sense.
Tincture. Yeah. Yeah. The powder's not as effective. But Lost Empire Herbs, they had like a guarantee, like 50, I think it's like a 20 grams of pine pollen per night. And then like Morningwood guarantee, if you don't get Morningwood, money back.
Jesus. All right. I have some patients that we could have tried that out on. That's funny.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it works. Otherwise they'd be out of business, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty good, but I still think Cistanch is the number one. In my opinion, I think Cistanch is literally the number one male tonic. I mean, you've got a few others from Ayurveda. Like there's a few other little golden gems, but I mean, I'm sure you've seen clinically, guys have probably exhausted all of them, and like they've experimented with heaps, right? And they're still struggling, and then only until they get on TRT do they feel on top of the world and back to how they used to feel, right? Like,
Yeah, that was, and trust me, that was a frustrating thing. I'm a naturopathic doctor. Like that's what I went to school for, to figure out natural ways. And to be honest with you, a lot of my colleagues are the same way. Like, just say me, I'm 30 years old. I come in, my T is 450. I'm just like, hey dude, my libido's okay. It's not great. My energy's not that awesome. Gym isn't what it used to be. I just don't feel as fulfilled in life. It's not like you're at 300 and depressed and suicidal, but I'm like, I can see that you're kind of teetering in that direction. So obviously if they're open to it, let's try some ashwaganda. I like Panax ginseng. I like, make sure they have their zinc, magnesium, before bed. And we try it out. But it was funny because so many guys, we have this term, at least some of my colleagues, about earn your testosterone. Like the guys have to do everything right. You got to sleep, you got to eat, you got to exercise. And I'm like, after a while, I figured out if a guy's T is 300 and he's like 55 years old, he's not going to do any of those things. And so I was like, you know what, maybe I'll go at this backwards. Let me put him on T first. And he's like, you know what? I woke up, I was morning wood and I had an energy and I went to the gym and then I ate a little bit better. So it's like, to me as a practitioner, I just got to figure out what works, So, and that's why, and a lot of people like you and I just like experimenting on myself with different things. I mean, that's why I've done ACG, I've done Clomid, I've done enclomiphene, I've done TRT, I've done a lot of the different peptides, which aren't particularly for testosterone, but some of the GH analogs and stuff, just to, because there's crossover, right? Like with the way growth hormone, testosterone, and serotonin and dopamine. So for me, and that's why, to be honest, caffeine's still one of my favorite because it just seems like it hits all those things for me. It gives me energy, boosts my mood, gives me confidence, and then it can kind of slide off in about 6 hours, if I need to sleep. And everyone's different. You might have a COMT, MTHFR mutation where it makes you anxious, lasts longer. So just kind of figure things out for you. So, and then, so you're in this like TRT optimization realm. Anything, what about nootropic wise? What do you got going on over there? Anything coming down the pipe that might be new and exciting or?
Yeah, I mean, I've had some pretty remarkable experiments. One in particular was Bromantane. Are you familiar with that one?
Bromantane.
Yeah.
Does it go by, is it one of the B vitamins and it's like altered?
Oh, I think you're thinking of benfotiamine.
Yes, right. You are right.
Bromantane is the very first synthetic adaptogen developed.
Oh, I don't know that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that one there is like they classified as like an actoprotector. So basically, like it literally just means the Russians were looking for a synthetic adaptogen.
They put it in their vodka. Oh, sorry. Is that cultural appropriation? I'm half Polish, so I can say that. Never mind.
Oh, that's all right. And so they also gave it to their military and also their astronauts or like their cosmonauts as well. So, I mean, that's like it's banned banned by WADA. It's been used it's been abused by that many athletes. And obviously I had to get my hands on it. I had to try it.
It's banned by everyone possible. I want to try that.
And geez, that was like, very, very profound. And what was very weird about it was the onset was literally 6 hours later. I was like, I had it in the morning. I'm like, I remember going to the library, it was like, I went to the library, it was like 9 a.m., went to the library, like stayed to like 2, had some lunch, finished lunch, came back in, studied. I'm like, right, where's the 3 o'clock slump? Oh, I'm like, right, I'm starting to really pick up at 3. I'm like, I got to get back home. I got to do a workout. I'm feeling too good. I got to go train. And and that workout was literally, it was insane, man. Like I literally felt like I was Superman. That workout was just, I'll never forget it. And then what was weird about it was that like that night, I remember sleeping literally 6 hours, waking up feeling insanely like rested, recharged, and like buzzing with energy. I'm like, something's not right here. Like this is
that's true to be true, man. That's what sucks. That's really what sucks is when you find stuff like that. I don't know if you played with like psychedelic stuff. Like there's always a back end of it. That's why I try and tell people like there's no biological free lunch. I think there's an ultimate way to raise the level, but if you're here and you're up here for a little bit, it's really hard not to slide back down.
Exactly. or actually just touching on that whole boost up to and then boost down. Something I've been looking into is like deliberately boosting yourself, deliberately making yourself worse to get better.
Oh, what is that? Dopamine fast?
Well, dopamine fasting, but also like low dose naltrexone,
Yeah.
like anti-op, or like literally making yourself feel like shit for 3 days. But you know that like on day 4 and for like the rest of the next 2 weeks, I call it like the snapback phenomenon. It's something I want to delve into. It's like, right, everyone's taken all these things to make them feel acutely really good, or like they want to boost that, you know, things like caffeine, things that actually do make you feel good, but then like it does drop you down a little bit below baseline. Instead, what about you literally plan to feel like shit for like a day? It's like, you know, it might be a Sunday or whatever. You wake up, you're like, I can afford to feel like shitty like today.
Yeah.
But I know that when Monday comes and Tuesday and Wednesday, I am buzzing. So I'm sort of looking into like kappa agonists, like specific like opioid, like dysphoric things. If you can endure that and like tolerate the feeling shitty to feel awesome, it's like it's just a very weird way. It's not, I wouldn't say it's not self-harm. It's like, you know that you're going to, as long as you know that you're going to feel shit, you can absolutely cope. You got the right environment. You know that it's literally chemically induced and it's not you. It's fine. I think it's like, you can get away with it. And again, it's just an experiment.
Like, you know, Kratom. Have you played with Kratom at all?
I've had the derivatives, like similar, because it's banned. I can't get it here in Australia.
Yeah, I've had just a couple different forms of it. It didn't make me feel the best, but I agree, and it's weird because I do my best to try and bring things full circle. Like when I look at society and I look at alcohol, I'm like, dude, alcohol is terrible for you. I can name 1,000 different things of why it's bad. And then I'm like, but man, how does something like that stay in society for so long if it doesn't have some form of benefit? You know, like there's got to be good and a bad. And it's very interesting when you brought that up. I thought about like hangovers, you know, like when you have a real bad hangover and you just feel terrible. And then like if it's on Sunday, you're just terrible. Monday, you're feeling okay. And then Tuesday, you're like kind of back, like, oh yeah, I know what it feels like to be this way again, you know?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I get that all the time with just a conversation about addiction and dependency. Another real game changer for me was Huperzine. I don't know if you ever had, like, it was one of those ones where I'm like, dang, like this stuff, like mental clarity was there. But now it doesn't, I get like even fasciculations if I take it now. So it's really weird. Yeah, like a little bit, like I'll be sitting, my arm will just kind of tick or something. I like really get ticks everywhere. Especially if I'm doing like, well, what's crazy about that is I bought some powder off powdercity.com and I thought it was milligrams and not microgram dose. But yeah, so I did like 5,000 of, I literally had like I threw up. I had like an out of body experience. Like it was crazy. And then, but when I came back to baseline, I felt great. You know, it's like one of those things. So, and it's weird, but when you look at society and when you look at alcohol, there's a reason people use it on the weekend, you know, GABA to kind of relax. And because it's just society's just so anxiety driven. At least, like I said, I'm in Southern California and I moved here from Illinois, which is in the Midwest, a small town, 3,000 people. So to move from that to here is like, it's very palpable. Like I went to Maui last summer for a week. And when I came back to Southern California, I was just like, you just felt like a swarm of bees when you get into LA traffic. It's crazy. So no wonder people like pound down a half of pint of vodka on the weekend, you know? So.
Yeah, that whole space of like, you know, what do people use before they go out or like drinking alcohol? Like I've always, the whole, like that whole like anxiolytic, you know, how can we design, I've been looking into stacks literally designed to, you know, alternatives to alcohol. Like I can literally put together a stack that will literally mimic the effects of, if you know what you're doing, like with, you know, using compounds that we know that are GABA agonists, or, you know, there's a particular herb that I've used from Brazil, which you may or may not have heard of it. It's called catuaba.
I don't know that one.
And this is literally like, it was part of a formula that I put together. But this is like a powerhouse for making you feel like disinhibited, as in like you literally go out and you got to be careful what comes out of your mouth, because you're literally just like literally there's no inhibitions. You're literally just talking schmack, talking shit like the whole time.
Truth serum, huh?
It can be and it just sort of turns you into like a joker as well. Like you're way more sarcastic and just more chilled and less stuck in your head.
Yeah.
And you know, I feel like a lot of people want that. A lot of people want alcohol alternatives. Like we don't want it. Yeah. We don't want we've literally, I mean, I've been able to design stacks that would literally replicate the effects of alcohol, if not better, and without the come down. And even the next day, they're still feeling pretty good. It's and it costs like literally 1/5 the price of drinking booze, you know?
Yeah. One drink is $10. So if you can get capsules for $2 to $3, I mean, yeah, I mean, my tolerance has greatly decreased with alcohol compared to when I was an undergraduate university. It just it was maddening how much alcohol I would drink. And now I have 1 or 2 drinks. And that's literally what I do anymore. I probably have 1 or 2 drinks a week. And it's literally like on Friday, literally I try and do it like with bitters before a meal. That way it kind of loosens me up a little bit. But yeah, otherwise, you know, it can really wreck your system out of habit, you know. And that was my whole thing is I would wake up and just pound pre-workout to get rid of my hangover. You know, it's like I drown myself in GABA at night, and then in the morning I drown myself in caffeine. So it's an interesting world we live in, and it's a lot of times it's about finding balance. So, and then so you got a couple master classes though. So a lot of this, do you talk about a lot of these things in you have a testosterone and a sleep class?
Yeah, both. So I launched so I got a free like 30-minute testosterone course, like just basic biohacks that I think are like the low hanging fruit, things that guys can implement straight away to see positive changes in either like libido or testosterone. And yeah, that's been really positive. Like the guys that have joined, like they're pleased, and just building that up. And then again, I've got like from that, I've got like a 3-hour, like an advanced masterclass. I really wanted it to be like the best natural boosting testosterone protocol and like webinar series that exists on the internet. Because I was looking around, I'm like, there's not many webinars, or, you know, you've got doctors talking about why the testosterone epidemic exists, and why like the consequences of low test and all that, but not many like actionable sort of you know, tips and tricks and scientifically backed strategies. So I'd put that 3-hour course together, which covers literally everything from the very beginning, like from diet to sleep hacks to cortisol hacks to supplements, dosages, compounds, research chemicals, just everything, man. I wanted to just chuck as much as I could in that. And then the sleep course.
But what do you got in the research chemical area? Anything I've heard of? I mean, I love hearing new stuff.
Well, I spoke about Bromantane, which I mentioned before, but in more detail, because that's like the ultimate prolactin lowering drug. Apart from cabergoline and like bromocrypt, you know, they've got them. They're pretty intense, and they don't come with.
Do you know, has anyone microdosed with like bromocryptine or any of the other anti-dopamines? Right, that's an anti-dopamine if I remember. Or yeah, it works on the
bromocryptine. Oh geez, I've personally never touched it, but yeah, I mean, I'd consider it maybe in a few years' time.
Interesting. I'm just wondering, it's similar mechanism of action. So I was like, I wonder if a microdose every now and then would do anything. But
yeah, I mean, it's worth exploring, I guess. But the bromantane's probably one that, well, it does lower the prolactin through just bumping up tyrosine hydroxylase, which is that enzyme that shunts your tyrosine into L-DOPA, and then from L-DOPA to dopamine. And another compound is 9-MBC, which, again, this is so it's like part of, have you heard of harmalines?
Yeah, harmaline is in ayahuasca.
Yeah. So 9-MBC is basically like a derivative of these harmala alkaloids.
Yeah.
Which we already know is beneficial for a wide variety of things. And if we can get into
I was going to ask, do you, you can continue your thought, but I'd love to know psychedelics and wise if there's things that you've been called to in that area too. But
Well, I feel like, I mean, I haven't explored any of the heavy hitters, like the psilocybin or LSD or DMT, 5-MeO. I've done a lot of research on them, but I just haven't had a calling yet. I'm sort of waiting.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm waiting until I'm actually waiting until I finish school, and then I might decide, and it'll be a matter of time before I sort of like ponder into that realm. But you know what I'm honestly scared of, man? I'm scared that I'm just going to see how broken everything is.
oh, bro, that's part of it, dude. But it's funny you bring that up, and I don't know how much, if you look into Carl Jung and if you really like the psychological angle about everything. So I've done a lot of plant medicines, and to be honest with you, it was probably a year ago the last time I did ayahuasca, and I've done it legally every time that I've done it, and man, there was a the place that I was in, the military was close by and they were dropping bombs. And we took our first like a little bit of sip outside, and then we went inside for the ceremony. And it gets real weird when you start talking about God and consciousness and the subconscious and everything. But I had like kind of a dialogue with myself. And I think everyone has this. This is when it gets weird about like schizophrenic and all these things. It's, to me, I have like a left brain and a right brain. Like I'll leave the gym and be like, I'm going to go to the beach because it's like good for my soul. And then my other part of my brain's like, yeah, but you don't have food, so you're going to be hangry. So you need to go get food first. And then it's going to be too much of a drive to go back. Like I fight myself like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as I was sitting there, I remember like a bomb dropping. And this was last year even. This was like before all this, things got really, really weird in the world with COVID and you guys had the fires and all this stuff. And I remember just like sitting there, I'm like, what is going on? Right? Like there's just so much different disinformation and so much confusion. I'm like, what does it want? Whatever it is, like this, I don't know if it's a negative entity or if it's like whatever it is, but it's like you should judge something by it. You judge a fruit by its tree. Christ talked about that. You judge it by what it produces. And I'm like, right now, our society is producing utter confusion and chaos. And so one can only think on the subconscious levels, like that's what it wants, whether there's an Illuminati, whether there's something in power. And, I think it's good to have that thrown in. Like that was kind of the thing that threw in my face. And I'm like, okay, that's where, you and I are called to be healers and information gatherers. And it kind of inspired me a little bit. I'm like, dude, we got to get out there and like, round up the braves. And man, it's like time to get at this stuff because things are about as weird as I've ever seen them. I mean, I've had a short life and, just kind of reflecting back over the 20th century, it's like things was actually, you go from World War I to II to the Holodomor to the Holocaust to the Vietnam War to all this other crazy stuff. So yeah, I trust me, dude, I'm with you. It's a very often intense experience. And I got drawn to it. Like you're saying, like harmaline, I think there's clinical studies showing that the alkaloids help with BDNF and like Alzheimer's, dementia, psilocybin, kind of the same thing. So
yeah, it's with the harmaline's just one like category, one class, but the 9 MBC is like there's so many of these harmalines that are actually like neurotoxic as well, at particular dosages. But 9 MBC was one that they're literally studying for Parkinson's like right now. And how it literally regenerates dopaminergic neurons.
Wow.
Similar to, I don't know if you've experimented with ibogaine.
No, that's one I haven't touched yet, but I've heard really good things about it.
Yeah, I mean, that would be one hell of an intense few days, similar to like salvia.
I've not done salvia either, and I've not really heard good things about salvia. Ibogaine, to my understanding, iboga, if you have an opiate addiction, I've had a friend that was addicted to heroin and did iboga, came out clean without any withdrawal symptoms, which is crazy because you have terrible withdrawal symptoms. It's supposedly just the ibogaine resets the mu receptors for opiate, just turns it off and on. It's like, what? It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, with, again, I've never experimented with salvia, but that's the whole rationale of feel shit to feel amazing. Like
Yeah.
that is literally, that's salvia in a nutshell, or like that's ibogaine. All of these compounds are literally like, you are literally inducing, you're agonizing receptors that should not be touched. Or like, I mean, they're there for a reason, but they're very delicate. And as soon as you stroke them, they're like, right, you're going to induce some serious, like a lot of stuff's going to come out right now. So, yeah, but in terms of 9-MBC, that's not really the case. I guess that's one of the compounds that literally people will experience benefits straight away. Like they'll feel it, boost in mental clarity, energy, reverses tolerance to stimulants. You got people that have been on Adderall, abuse Ritalin, things like that. 9-MBC is a really powerful therapeutic tool to regenerate dopaminergic damage. And I did a whole video on YouTube talking about 9-MBC. I think it's got
you have to, I'll share and link it underneath, man, because I think I think that's a huge area of therapeutic forefront, right? Because we live in such a world with all these like dopamine dependencies. Myself, like I don't think we realize, Facebook, Instagram, email, all these things are giving us dopamine kicks, and that was weird for me. I noticed myself like drinking more caffeine, and on a weird end, psychologically, I was just trying to evaluate myself. I'm like, why do I need this much caffeine? And I mean, again, it's pretty obvious. I don't feel stimulated at my job enough, right? So I'm trying to take things to stimulate myself because I love to be stimulated. I love learning new things and ideas, obviously probably why I'm in the field I'm in. So for me, I've been always trying to find things to kind of help reset that for me. So when I do caffeine, I don't have this huge tolerance.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So I'll have to try, I might have to look into that one a little bit, but it's crazy. Ayahuasca, from what I've seen, has not only the harmaline, but there's so many other constituents in there that we don't even understand, how many alkaloids. And the same thing with psilocybin. One of the big, are you familiar with the John Hopkins study on psilocybin and death anxiety?
Yeah, as in like anxiety and death-inducing anxiety. Is that the one? Like worrying about dying?
Yeah. They did. They had like, I think it was like 19 people that had terminal cancer, and they all took psilocybin. Like it's the most number. I think 75% of them, so it was like 14 or 15, felt more comfortable with dying after they had that experience. And I think like 11 of them said it was one of the most important experiences of their life. So, that's getting really popular now, the microdosing of psilocybin. And I know some people with LSD as well. I don't condemn either of those, but because too, I think psilocin, I think is the alkaloid that's in our active constituents in psilocybin, and it works as like a minor 5-HTT agonist or something. Serotonin.
2A. Yeah, 2A agonist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jeez, it's another realm. Yeah.
What else we got on this list, man? So, I think we didn't talk much about sleep though.
Okay.
So your sleep masterclass things kind of you played with over there.
Yeah. I'd love to chat about one seaweed that I think is really therapeutic for sleep. It's called Ecklonia Cava. It's probably, I would say it's similar to, between intensities of like GABAergic, it's similar to Cava itself, but also in between like Cava and L-theanine. But basically, I mean, the reason why I like Ecklonia Cava is because instead of it being such a potent GABA agonist, it just acts as like a positive allosteric modulator of the GABA A receptor. So it just means that it's opening up that receptor for the endogenous GABA to bind to. So it's more sustainable. There's no tolerance and there's no down regulation. And the benefit is that the half-life is beyond 12 hours. And then the other benefit is that it's also stimulates alpha waves in the brain, which is similar to theanine and similar to how you feel when you meditate. And that particular seaweed, that again is one of those compounds where you wake up, and as soon as you wake up, it's so easy to just get straight into your work because you already feel just so rested and so like refreshed. And we know that like a lot of the fluorotannins found within this seaweed do cross the blood-brain barrier. And it's being studied. Like, dude, if you looked at the studies like beyond just the brain, like the Japanese spent like over $30 million researching this particular seaweed. Like it's definitely, I think it's definitely an up and coming. And from my experience and from a lot of guys' experiences, they basically just say helps induce sleep very like within 1 hour. They feel relaxed. They wake up feeling refreshed. And there was literally a study done where they compared it to Viagra, and it literally outperforms Viagra for erectile capacity as well. I was
Whoa.
like, this is,
What's the name of the seaweed?
it's Ecklonia Cava, Ecklonia
Okay, so very interesting. Close to Cava. Is it relate? But Cava's like a shrub or something, isn't it? I don't even.
Cava, yeah, it's not related in any way. This is it's an algae. It's a seaweed. It's a brown seaweed. So again, like, got to be careful though with sourcing because there's a lot of like crappy.
Right, just radiated algae coming out of Fukushima.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was something else on here with the research chemicals. Iridavascient.
Oh geez, odabisant.
Yeah, what's that?
Oh wow. So I mean, this is not even available. As in, like, you have to order it from literally. You know how they use reference compounds in studies, like as in they'll literally use it as a reference.
Research purposes only.
Yeah. So odabisant. So you're familiar with modafinil?
Yeah.
So I think, in my opinion, I believe that odabisant may well and truly be the up and coming modafinil, because it
Have you used modafinil?
I've never used it purely because I'm like, I know the outcome before I even try it. Like, I know what's going to happen, but and also I know that it's going to borrow.
Didn't like it.
Yeah, I know the outcome. It'll just make me feel depleted for like 3 to 4 days after having it. I'm like, I can't afford to feel like that. And what for? I've got so many other things to draw upon. That's not going to just smash my brain.
Yeah.
So, but I think odabisant, again, I did a video on, I wanted to be the first one to talk about it. Similar to Ryan Smith, Ryan Smith from TaylorMade. Yeah, I love his stuff. When he talks about these new peptides, I'm like, right, how can I be like Ryan and find these?
We're gonna be like Ryan. Well, it's funny, but then guys like us, I don't know about you, like when I came on the peptide scene, I think maybe 2015, I heard about like MK677, ibutamoren. And it was funny because I was in medical school and some of my friends who are bodybuilders text me. They're like, hey man, what do you think about me jumping on this? I'm like, it's probably garbage because I don't know about it. It's just egotistical, I'll be honest. I'm like, I know everything. And I'm like, oh, whoa, there's actually, there's clinical studies on this. Some, not a great amount, a lot of them on rats or whatever. And if you're hungry for information, like I went on PubMed and just kind of Googled some stuff and found a lot of the information when I started playing with peptides. I mean, I've been trained now. I've been at A4M. I've had a podcast. I've talked to Ryan a couple of times. He's a super knowledgeable guy, which sucks. The whole peptide thing, they've shut down a lot of it here in the United States. Like TaylorMade, half their peptides are gone. They want BPC 157, MK 677, CJC, Ampamorelin, all gone. They won't make them. FDA kind of came in and was like, hey, are these things safe? You guys sure you want to keep making these? And then they bowed out. And then the other two pharmacies that I get them from bowed out too. So
it's sad.
Sad. The regulations are a little softer in Australia with peptides? No?
Somewhat. BPC, BPC is one of my favorites. In terms of legalities, like around selling it.
Can you get it from a health food store or you have to get it from a compounding pharmacy?
It's a gray zone, man. Like, it's literally, they don't even have a classification for BPC. Like, I think I don't even know. All I know is that it's not illegal to have, as in to purchase. And it's also not illegal to manufacture here. That's all that I know. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I think kind of happened here. And then the FDA is like, are you sure you want to keep making these kind of thing? Or something like, I don't know. We go into conspiracies like you have Testosterone and then you have Egrifta, which is like the actual drug. And yeah, I could get that drug from a compounding pharmacy for a couple $100 or the actual company can sell it to a person for like $6,000. Like, why do you think they're shutting them down and saying, they need regulations and stuff? So It's unfortunate.
Yeah. I mean,
All part of the game, unfortunately, and that's kind of what I was talking about with ayahuasca, just trying to figure out our way through all of it. But anything in particular about endotoxins, like
oh,
mold or anything in there?
well, I guess, with endotoxin, you're familiar with Dr. Ray Pete?
I don't think I am.
Oh, he talks about endotoxin significantly, and I'm always on the hunt for like, I started looking into what can we do to lower endotoxin, and basically endotoxin is like a gram-negative bacteria that, if we eat certain foods that irritate the gut, the body will then release endotoxin, and endotoxin is a potent immunostimulant, but also it damages, like it causes major oxidative stress and inflammation, leaky gut. It messes around with cortisol production, serotonin, and this is the other thing. So endotoxin is like goes hand in hand with serotonin. So anything you can do to lower your endotoxin load, such as raw carrots, so like a raw carrot salad, literally after like a heavy fatty meal, for example, like, and that's another thing I'd like to chat with Paul Saladino about, is like, if saturated fats are known to, I know they're awesome from a like hormonal perspective, but if you're having a lot of saturated fats, you're going to bump up the production of endotoxin.
Yeah,
And so what are you doing to
PLAs, poly, what's the PLA2?
polyamine?
There's something I remember learning about in the gut where, I don't know if it's with my biofilms in the gut, and then you measure for it in blood when people do leaky gut tests. PLA2, what the hell is the same? Phospholipid I just mumbo jumboing now, but it's along the line. I think it's an endotoxin, like what you're saying. It's in the gut lining and high amounts of saturated fat. Something about the exchange with the bacteria in the gut drive it into the blood, and then it's an endotoxin to the brain. I could be, someone in the comments will probably correct me, but
so basically I started looking into like, what are the effects of endotoxin? How do they affect health? And like, what strategies can we implement to lower endotoxin overall load? And so raw carrot salad was one, because that helps to flush out, it's got indigestible fibers to help with literally clearing out these endotoxins. Same with like white button mushrooms as well, and also bean shoots. So those bean shoots, they're good strategies. And then
like, was it green curry? Is this a green curry? Is it yellow curry, right? Yellow curry had bean shoots and carrots, I think. So
yeah, and also activated charcoal is probably a potent. I had some last night actually.
There you go.
Yeah, it's good to lower the endotoxin. And then what I mentioned before, cyproheptadine to you before, that's like potent to anything that supports bile production, or anything that sort of helps the bowel, like getting the bowels. It just comes back to our naturopathic philosophy, right? Like get the bowels moving. If you're not going to the toilet like once a day, defecating at least once a day, you're going to get an endotoxin buildup. And so like from a naturopathic point of view, it's funny because like that's like the very first place that we start, like the gut. Yeah. So it's like if their gut's shitty, then let's work there, and then we'll see other systems, work their way back and correct themselves, sort of thing. Like,
I got a hot seat question for you.
Yes.
Berberine or metformin?
Oh, I knew this was coming. All right. So, and I'm looking at metformin as I speak. Okay. So, well, I've got my pros and cons, and I've analyzed, and I can't wait to talk to Jay Campbell about metformin. But basically, I have come to the conclusion that metformin, personally, like for me, is more beneficial than berberine.
Really? Oh, okay.
Well, I know. This is a naturopath here. Having said that, I do believe berberine is still highly effective at, reducing blood sugar, stimulating other pathways that metformin doesn't.
That's what I'm saying, bile and, just antimicrobial. Yeah.
All those things. But then the one thing that I liked about metformin, and again, this is very individualized to me was that it helped to regenerate cortisol similar to licorice. And I was like, you know, because I was on the hunt for like, I didn't want to use licorice to help with the adrenal cortisol property. Like I didn't want to use licorice to increase that 11 beta HSD1 because I was like, I don't want to use licorice. You know me, like it's like, even though it's marginally going to decrease test, I felt more irritable on licorice. So I was like, where are these other compounds that jack up cortisol? And metformin was one of them. I'm like, right. I saw a study in like healthy men plus overweight men, and it helped to regenerate cortisol. I'm like, maybe this is why I'm waking up earlier since starting. I'm like, I was literally waking up at 5 or 5:30, and I felt like the cortisol awakening response was better. I felt much easier to get out of bed, even though I didn't struggle. It just ramped up that ability to get out of bed. And so, but look, I have a strict criteria. So like, I only use metformin on the following, like in the following criteria. If I haven't trained, I'll take metformin, but I train pretty much every day. So it's like, so therefore, the other thing is if I've had a late night, if I've been to bed at like 1 a.m. or 2 a.m., that following day, I'll take metformin. If I've, if I want to go out and have a cheat meal and have fun and just binge on crappy foods like I do every now and then, I'll take metformin. So it's like, that's my criteria. Again, I won't take it on days that I train because I know that it can blunt some of the benefits to aerobic training, and I'm doing a lot of aerobic training. So it's like, I don't really want to be taking metformin. Or if you're severely constipated, take metformin because that's shit.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's my only real drawback, and I expressed that to Jay before, that gut dysbiosis. You know, that's where we're actually blocking the uptake of sugar. And if you have dysbiosis, and then you're like, people are like, oh, it's the metformin is cleansing the bowels. And there are some studies that it can improve. I don't know. I don't know if we know enough about actual strains of microbes yet, in my opinion, to say you want this much acidophilus, you want this much, X, Y, or Z, right? So there are studies like, oh, metformin, improves the microbiome. And I've seen just as many studies showing that it destroys the microbiome, because you got to think someone that's, metabolic syndrome, and then you give them metformin and it puts more sugar into their bowels. And we know that with poop transplants, right? Like like they do the fecal transplants. It's like, if you can move the skinny person microbiome into a larger person's microbiome, they've lost weight. So to me, I'm like, if someone was already having dysbiosis and they're overweight, and then I block the sugar uptake, is that going to make it worse? So to be honest, in clinical practice, I haven't played much with metformin. Just intuitively never felt really kind of called to it. I think that it definitely has its time and place, and I think it can be a tool in a practitioner's toolbox. I just, never got into it. I was like, I'll just use berberine, and maybe if someone was actual metabolic syndrome and we weren't getting results, but I didn't see a whole lot of metabolic syndrome. So
yeah. I mean, it doesn't come without side effects, I guess. Like, it lowers B12. We already know that. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to take metformin, you got to make sure you're taking B12, and then it's also lowering ferritin as well. So careful for guys that are, I got myself anemic, man. I was donating blood like every 12 weeks, taking a bunch of curcumin. I was taking high dose vitamin B1 and artichoke extract, and also C60 for a period of time. And then I was starting to get all the symptoms of low iron. I'm like, I eat red meat like 4 or 5 times a week. I'm like, and then I went and got bloods done. I'm like, it's embarrassing. I'm not even bleeding.
Naturopath with low iron. Yeah. That's funny. That's weird, man. It's like anything. We all have holes in our armor, and we're all just experimenting. Well, but I'd heard too that maybe some of the fillers, that they put in pharmaceuticals like metformin might be like there's something came out, might be cancerous. I don't remember, it was one of the fillers in there. So I don't know. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's one of those things you got to just run with the risks and benefits. So
exactly.
But all right, man, I know we're running a little over an hour here. I don't want to take up too much of your time. Lucas, do you want to let people know where they can find you?
Sure. So people can see my Instagram, so like Ergogenic Health. So we can link that in the show notes. They can also check out my website as well. I've got my webinars there, which they can delve into, the free sleep course and the free testosterone masterclass as well. And I got a bunch of the products as well that I mentioned from today's episode, all linked there as like affiliate links to legitimate vendors for those compounds. So yeah, people can hit me up on, if they want to send me a message or whatever on Insta, got any questions from today's podcast, feel free to hit me up.
He's got a lot of great information on Instagram too. A lot of pictures, a lot of detailed information, like blueberries and different kinds of stuff on there. So yeah, we'll get some of your videos and we can link them in the comments. And if anyone of you guys have used any of these stuff, I always appreciate comments. So if you have some experience with any of the compounds, I always love hearing about it. So Lucas, hey dude, we'll definitely do this again. I super enjoyed the conversation, and we'll have to smash brains here on the reg so we can see what see what kind of new stuff's coming out. So appreciate you coming on, man. We'll do it again.
Thanks, Mike. I really enjoyed today. Appreciate it.
Peace, everyone.
Thanks, man.